Transmite en su canal de frecuencia modulada estereofónica multiplex La Voz Radio, desde New Haven, Connecticut, al mundo.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. My name is Caprice Taylor Méndez y como siempre es un placer estar aquí con ustedes, con Juntos Podemos, here with Together We Can, donde celebramos a líderes para crear un mundo, co-crear un mundo más justo y más gentil, where we co-create a kinder and more just world in celebration of the leaders and the folks who roll up their sleeves every day and committed to creating a kinder and more just world. And it is my utmost pleasure today to welcome James Jatter. He is the co-founder, co-director of Full Citizens Coalition. If you haven't heard of Full Citizens Coalition, then you will after today and feel really lucky and you might actually want to learn more and support this wonderful work, because James Jetter, I turn on my email, I look at social media, and one would think that there are like 20 of James's out there of all the things that James is up to in terms of helping the community. And so I don't want to take up too much time in introducing James, but giving you the opportunity to hear directly from him. One of our sons of New Haven, born, raised in New Haven, and the unfortunate circumstances that led his life journey to one that he has had to face the extreme barriers that too many of our Black and brown males of our urban city centers of Connecticut have had to face. And coming back home and continuing to face a whole bunch of barriers. Just going to translate really fast. Quisiera introducir hoy a James Jetter, uno de los fundadores de una coalición apoyando a que personas regresando a nuestra comunidad aquí en New Haven y a nivel estatal de Connecticut, especialmente en los centros urbanos, a que sean parte de la sociedad con poder y respeto, a que pueden ser incluidos como 100% respetados como ser humanos que merecen tener voz, voto y presencia y trabajo y viviendas. Uno cree que todo ser humano debe tener un hogar, algún lugar seguro para poder descansar, para poder trabajar, laborar en trabajos decentes, con pago, pero lamentablemente las leyes y las pólizas y la manera en la cual nos tratamos uno al otro, juzgando uno al otro por haber tenido una sentencia en el sistema judicial. No se otorga ese respeto ni el poder de tener trabajo ni voto en la política acá en los Estados Unidos y también en Connecticut. James Jetter nació, creció en New Haven y los caminos de la vida le tomó unos pasos donde fue encarcelado y regresó y vio de que todavía la sentencia del sistema judicial todavía estaba pagando por esas consecuencias y no podía haber una salida de eso porque juzgamos en esta sociedad si alguien terminó en la cárcel. Y ahora estamos reconociendo de que no ha sido por razones que en verdad justificaba una sentencia en la cárcel. Y ha sido en este país una historia, larga historia, de encarcelar a personas nomás por la raza latina, la raza negra, la raza de piel morena. Obviamente está aquí James Chatter que nos va a explicar un poco más. Thank you so much, James. What I did share in Spanish was that you are a son of New Haven, born in New Haven, and you've had to face a lot of personal obstacles from things that have happened after you came back, after having served time in our criminal justice system in Connecticut, and still serving time by the way that society was not embracing you as a full citizen, respecting you as a full human being. And this has happened to far too many of our Black, brown brothers and sisters, especially from urban centers, especially our males from urban centers here in Connecticut and across the country. And so, could you share with us approximately about how many people, some of the obstacles that you faced and Full Citizen Coalition is trying to address? About how many people does this impact? Why is this radio interview so important? To how many people?
So the direct impact is a thing of measurement that I'm learning not to only view this particular population. And so direct impact, as far as those who, well, up until 2021, no one in CT who's on felony parole could vote. We were able to change that law in 2021, which restored the voting rights back to roughly 4,000 people. Currently, there are right around 10,000 people sitting in Connecticut prisons who have no access to a ballot, and 2/3 of them have no access to or have any rights. They are sitting in a state of civic death. But if you look at impact, you have to measure impact in time. Mass incarceration officially started in 1973, and our communities have been so impacted by mass incarceration and so disenfranchised around our vote. So we're talking about 1968, where you have the passing of the Civil Rights Act. Within 5 years, there are policy changes that started to incarcerate at higher rates, and it has not stopped since. So it's created intergenerational harm, where our communities, one, are the nuclear home is broken, and then with the breaking of the home, you have the removal of the conversations around civic engagement, around rights, around policies, around taxes. A lot of these conversations got removed from our homes, and then they got removed from our communities. And with more people locked out of the system, you have less participation, to the point where we now believe it doesn't work. Our communities believe it doesn't work. And the proof of that is in electoral turnouts. So if you look at like just the last 3 elections, where no urban city had 25% participation. Some as low as in certain years 4%, in municipal years for mayoral runs you see 8%. So this is something that we've as Black and brown communities throughout Connecticut, which is where incarceration happens the most. If you look at the report we did with the Prison Policy Initiative and Common Cause about where people in Connecticut who are in Connecticut jails and prisons live, you will notice that they live in the poorest, blackest and brownest neighborhoods throughout the state. These are the cities that are the most over-policed and over-incarcerated, and also who have checked out. They have the lowest turnouts. And so our community is harmed. The underlying issues that come from it, that come from the policies that govern our communities that keep this cycle going. So when I think about harm now, I really think that there's the personal harm is so great to all of us, right? That we all have to embrace this as our issue.
Thank you for that. So I will translate a little bit of what you just
I'm
said.
so sorry. I forgot
Oh
to
no,
translate over.
this
so
is so
sorry.
rich. No need to apologize because I took really good notes. So I will
Okay.
do my best.
And I'll slow down and break it up from here on. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and I just before I begin to translate into Spanish, I do want our audience members to just think about the following of what you just said, and how does that translate into impact here in the state in everyday lives, and the choices that elected officials are making, and whom are those elected officials representing? Because what you just said, a disenfranchisement that worked, meaning mass incarceration was to take away the power and welcoming for all humans in the United States to benefit from the resources that exist in the United States, but rather than create a different class, though the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots to work for free as much as possible, low wage or no wage. And that is constantly happening. And I love the fact that we're having this in Spanish as well, because the working for free, no wage or low wage is what folks from Latin America have been designated here in the US to be that free or no wage labor. And the immigration system and the incarceration system is to sustain that no wage or low wage labor. We talk of migrant workers who we never said you can stay and live here and have families. But yet we need them every season, every year. We have to have food every year. But yet they're not worthy of living here. So what you're just saying is another way in which systems that have been designed have worked. And the fear of what it would look like if folks that look like you and me actually had the power, political power, exercise that. Laws are constantly passed to take away our power. If it didn't matter, why put so much effort into taking our power away, right? Yeah. So I want folks to think of that when I translate this juicy stuff that you just shared. Pues yo le pregunté a James Cheddar cuál es el impacto, cuántas personas que viven hoy en día en Connecticut ha impactado esta causa, esta situación de personas que fueron encarceladas y quieren regresar y ser parte de la sociedad, pero enfrentan barreras. Como cuántas personas, ¿por qué es tan importante este tópico para nuestra gente? Y él dice, no me gusta hablar mucho del impacto directo porque va más allá de impacto directo, va más allá de las personas que fueron encarceladas y directamente son impactadas. Pero te voy a dar un ejemplo de lo que estoy hablando. En 2021, por fin logramos recaptar o conseguir de nuevo, es la palabra, conseguir de nuevo el derecho de poder votar. Y 4,000 personas consiguieron ese derecho porque abogamos y luchamos para cambiar la ley de delito del Estado y debajo de parole para poder restituir el derecho de votar en elecciones políticas. Entonces eso era como 4,000 personas recién. Pero en este momento hay como 10,000 personas encarceladas en el sistema criminal de Connecticut y no les dan acceso a poder votar. Como un ser humano, ¿quién va a representar los derechos de uno en la casa estatal? Y eso quiere decir, más allá, en 1973 fue cuando aumentaron el encarcelamiento de la mayoría de seres humanos. Este país de los Estados Unidos encarcela más seres humanos de cualquier otro país industrial, moderno, democracia. Tenemos más personas en prisión acá que en la propia China, donde dicen que es más opresivo el sistema de gobierno. Pues, ¿y quiénes son los quienes meten en las cárceles? Son las personas latinas y negras, personas morenas de piel, la raza que no sea blanca. Son las personas que atentan de encarcelar. Hay más policías en centros urbanos donde la mayoría de la persona que no sea blanca, negra, las personas latinas, las personas asiáticas, donde viven. En centros urbanos hay más representación de policías en esas comunidades. Hay esfuerzos de las policías, diferentes razones por las cuales uno puede terminar en la cárcel que en otros sitios, enforzados que en otros sitios. Y ha habido un estudio de una organización que se llama Common Cause, estudiando de dónde viene la gente en Connecticut que están encarceladas. Y sí, una gran cantidad de personas de los centros urbanos aquí de Connecticut. Y lo que esto ha causado es varias generaciones de bajo involucramiento en lo que se trata de involucramiento en la vida social cívica de Connecticut. La gente no sale a votar. La gente piensa de que la participación de uno no va a tener ningún impacto. No cree que el sistema cívica de los Estados Unidos, que la democracia en verdad no facilita el involucramiento de las personas que no son blancas. Se cree que no hay ningún impacto para qué participar. También ha causado la quebradura de el hogar. Niños creciendo sin conocer a sus padres, los padres separados, no poder mantener un hogar, no también poder encontrar trabajo. También se ve en las estadísticas cuando hay elecciones para alcaldía, muchos no participan. Y eso refleja no pensar de que hay una importancia del voto de uno si uno es negro o afroamericano o latino. Y por eso Full Citizens Coalition, la coalición de ciudadanía completa, está trabajando directamente con las familias, con las comunidades impactadas. And so thank you so much for really honing in on this big issue, because it does affect our long-term well-being in the state of Connecticut. I had a conversation around redistricting, and what I was appalled to hear back from some of our Democratic folks who consider themselves progressive, when I said, hey, do you know that our voting lines, geographically speaking, what is your voting district? Whom can you vote for when you look at Senate seats, when you look at the state Senate, state elected officials, representatives, and the municipal seats, that the lines of where you live in your neighborhood, what district does your house count as, your home, where you sleep, or even the park bench where you sleep. A lot of people don't know, if you're displaced and transitional housing, even if you slept one night on a bench and you don't know where you're going to sleep the next, you still have the right to vote. And so the district lines say, where is it that you get to vote? And I said, they're counting the human beings that are incarcerated as residents of that town. And most of Connecticut prisons are not in urban centers, but they're counting our folks from urban centers as their own, and then voting against the funding that could have possibly prevented them from having ended up in prison. And so folks in other parts of Connecticut are not necessarily with a priority of funding adequate public education system, funding adequate affordable housing, funding adequate access to free care for medical needs if you're low income. And so they're voting against the very well-being of the families of the folks who have been incarcerated, using their bodies, counting them for having greater power, number of seats at the state level, and then saying, but the people that we're counting can't even vote. We're not going to give them permission to vote. It is literally counting human beings and using them as a commodity and not giving them the full respect. And voting, even the harm is voting against the well-being of their community and families, which could have possibly prevented them. And some folks who consider themselves progressive Democrats, and they said, that is the way it is, but my district, it's not the time to change that rule. It's not the time yet.
Yeah.
So,
I think that we should pay attention to that last statement. When it comes to our issues, it's never the time.
Exactly.
There's always more important things, but we're suffering around policies, and it's never the time.
Que yo acabo de explicar de que a nivel estatal cuentan el número de las personas que están encarceladas, que la mayoría son de centros urbanos, para poder reconocer cuántos asientos representación en el Capitolio de Connecticut van a tener, mientras no dejan a las personas encarceladas a poder votar y elegir a representantes. Entonces, lo que pasa es de que los en poder están votando. La voz y voto no es para los intereses de nuestros centros urbanos, mientras no dejan que nuestra gente tenga voz y voto a nivel adecuado, porque cuentan en nuestras personas que están encarceladas para tener más poder en el Capitolio aquí en el estado, y eso es con el redistricting, se llama, eligiendo el mapa de quién puede votar para quién y cuántas personas van a estar representando los que son elegidos, y le está otorgando más poder a las afueras de las ciudades aquí en Connecticut. Y eso nos está impactando a un nivel negativo, which also says the investment of maintaining those prisons still in their areas to maintain political power.
Doing like a voting rights advocacy allows me to really think about the theory of democracy, and I think what would help our communities if we could approach voting as business persons, right? When you start a business, you create the position, you create the criteria for the position. You don't care about, you're not invested in an individual, right? You create the position, you create the pay, you create the benefits, and then the best candidate that comes up is who you choose. You know who best fits your criteria. It's not about them. It's about your criteria, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we, as in our communities, we get distracted from having a criteria, from having an agenda, from strategic planning on our issues, and we get caught up looking at a person. But if we voted together as board members, executive board members, right, then no employee can ever tell you it's not the right time. They work for you.
Exactly. And we need to remember that they work for the community.
Yes.
And hold them accountable. And that's what you're up to.
Yeah, or fire them.
That's
the other part.
That's what you're up to.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll translate that really quickly. James Shutter dice de que le gusta ver la situación de nuestra democracia aquí en los Estados Unidos como si fuera un negocio, y en cualquier negocio que uno quiere tener empleados, uno de ahí tiene que saber cuáles van a ser la criteria para conseguir a un empleado, los beneficios, el puesto de trabajo, las condiciones del trabajo, qué tienen que implementar, qué tienen que hacer, las responsabilidades, el pago. ¿Y por qué no vemos nuestros representantes elegidos en la política de esa manera? De que no depende en la persona que tiene el puesto, pero si la persona está haciendo un labor adecuado, si está preparado adecuadamente. Y nosotros como comunidad no tenemos claro cuál es nuestra agenda, cuál es la criteria, cuáles son la criteria, los elementos de prioridad para la persona que nos va a representar. Y si no están haciendo el trabajo, de ahí quitarles el trabajo, quitarles el puesto. Y hay que mantenerlos con la contabilidad. Thank you so much, James. And oh my gosh, our time is already almost up and we're about to end. And do you have any final words that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would say to those who live in, our inner cities, start to ask questions to yourself or to your family members about how do you feel about the current state of your city, the current state of access to healthcare, the current state of the minimum wage in this state, and then ask yourself, why are these things like this, and then what can we do? Because there's so much that can be done by us to affect these policies, to affect how our cities are run. But we have to start questioning it and re-engaging in the conversation. Froze.
But we can hear you.
Did you lose me?
And,
no, I froze.
Yes, we have you.
Okay, great. I was like, I froze.
And where can people meet up with you or Full Citizens Coalition?
You can email me at j.jetter@fullcitizenscoalition.org. You can check out our website, fullcitizenscoalition.org. We run civic workshops where we discuss these things and get into the numbers and the data and really the theory of it all with our community. And we do them in halfway houses, barbershops. We do them at stores. We do them on college campuses, and we're more than welcome to come do them wherever you are. This is what we do. So.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, James. I'm going to translate really quickly. I know you have to go. And so with that, welcome to the show again another time. Because I'd love to talk more with you. And we got so much to learn from you as well. So thank you so much, James, for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you, I appreciate you too. Pues ya se tiene que ir James, que va a dar una discusión en la Universidad de Yale, uno de los panelistas para hoy, pero voy a traducir el mensaje en conclusión que nos dio James Shutter de que es importante como comunidad, especialmente en los centros urbanos, a reflexionar y pensar si nosotros estamos contentos con el estatus de nuestra ciudad, si estamos bien o no con la situación de las escuelas, con acceso de cuidado médico, el pago en los trabajos, si es suficiente. Y si uno se pregunta esas preguntas y concluye de que no, merecemos una sociedad mejor, una sociedad donde podemos poder vivir una vida digna y sana. Entonces, eso quiere decir que es hora de involucrarnos, ser parte del cambio necesario. Y él dice que se pueden comunicar directamente con él en Full Citizens Coalition, donde ellos implementan talleres cívicas hablando de la democracia, el poder del voto, hablando sobre datos, en cómo es que el involucramiento de uno, el voto de uno, conocer bien qué está pasando en nuestros vecindarios, en nuestra ciudad y a nivel estatal, para poder tener un impacto colectivo. Y él está muy feliz si alguien lo invita para donde cortan pelo, en las escuelas, a donde sea, hasta lavandería, si quieren que él llegue a hablar con la gente allí y implementar el taller de cívicas que han creado para poder a que la gente de nuestras comunidades sepan este engaño grande de que nuestro voto, nuestra voz no importa. Es una gran mentira, porque él dice de que lo que nosotros hacemos sí tiene un gran impacto y sin involucrarnos mantiene la situación como está. En involucrarnos puede haber un cambio drástico, porque nuestros números, las personas latinas y negras acá en Connecticut, está aumentando, y podemos tener especialmente en nuestras ciudades un gran impacto si estamos bien informados y utilizamos el poder que tenemos cívico. Mil gracias por escuchar hoy. Thank you all for listening. And James Jetter, what a beautiful reminder to maintain ourselves informed, educated, and take action civically. And on that note, May 17th, there's a huge rally at the State House in support of looking at the state budget, our taxes, to support schools, access to affordable housing, healthcare, all the things that we name for quality of life. There's a big manufactured crises with these budgets at this time, with the spending cap. We'll learn more about that next Monday with Emily Byrne, with Connecticut Voices for Children. And so thank you so much for joining again today as we navigate co-creating a kinder and more just world together. And you can contact James Jetter at j.jeter@fullcitizenscoalition.org. And you can also go to their website at fullcitizenscoalition.org. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Gracias a todos y que tengan un buen día, y el próximo lunes vamos a hablar un poco sobre el presupuesto estatal y la crisis que fue creada por nuestros legisladores en poder otorgar recursos a nuestras escuelas, mejorar nuestra salud y el estado de nuestra gente en nuestras comunidades aquí en Connecticut, y qué podemos hacer para avanzar la mejoría en nuestras comunidades, porque hay dinero en el estado y están diciendo que no se puede pasar ciertas iniciativas por falta de dinero, pero sí hay. Y el 17 de mayo va a haber una gran marcha para poder apoyar a que la comunidad reciba lo que merecen. Entonces, con eso, el próximo lunes vamos a tener a Emily Byrne de Connecticut Voices for Children. No se lo pierdan. Gracias por estar aquí hoy con nosotros. Hasta pronto.